Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Ryan.
I'm Ben.
And welcome to our podcast about having fun in Commander, where jank is our policy and we only have one rule.
No experts allowed.
Hooray. We did an intro. It's fantastic.
Well, Ryan, this time we're going to talk about the fun that is the most recent bans.
The mandatory ban discussion. Listen, every Commander podcast show, what the hell ever, has to have this conversation. So we figured we'd just rip the Band-Aid early and just be done with it. So as you all know, in 24, most of you probably know, maybe, in 2024, the Rules Committee, who was in charge of Commander since its inception, made a ruling to have a bunch of cards banned. The most notably among them, Mana Crypt, because we're not experts, I'm trying to remember all this shit. Mana Crypt, Dockside Extortionist, and Jeweled Lotus were all banned. Nadu, Winged Wisdom, was also banned, and that, I think, made a big difference for people in the Commander, the CEDH community, more than the standard.
Even CEDH, it seemed to be a positive ban.
Yeah, it was. It was very much.
For the most part, obviously there's going to be a few people out there. For the most part, people were asking for that card to be banned.
The thing is, I was going to make a Nadu deck. I knew it was coming down the pipeline. I didn't know, I didn't have insider knowledge. Obviously, no experts here. But I had a feeling. You know, you have a feeling, you read a card like that and you're like, what the hell is this? And it just, it was so bonkers. So once that ban was made, that wasn't surprising. But and I think everybody kind of felt that in the pipeline coming down. But man, when Dockside and Jeweled Lotus and Mana Crypt all got taken away, everybody got all big mad, real big mad. And it was waves amongst the Magic the Gathering community. It was unheard of.
I personally feel like it would be a lot less people were mad about it than you'd think, because I've had a lot of conversations with people who were pretty okay with it. Mm-hmm. I think the problem is, we all know how it works. The loudest minority gets seen. Yeah. It gets viewed as a majority. Mm-hmm. And it probably didn't help but I know at least one of, we're not going to call them out, but at least one of the Commander channels had some negative things to say about it. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, even a lot of the people in the community, at least that I listen to, I'm probably going to have some bias because of who I listen to, because they obviously share viewpoints I might share,
right,
who did agree with it, or were more than okay with it. In fact, a pretty big thing that's been happening around the community I've noticed online is a lot of people trying to eliminate a lot of those fast mana sources to begin with. Mm-hmm. They had already been making the cuts before the ban, so it was
right. They knew. Like I said,
I don't think these ones knew. They aren't big enough to have been in the know.
You're not wrong.
They did it for other reasons. And when I say they'd already started doing it, I mean I can find videos of theirs from a year before the ban.
Okay. So they were in the know. You don't necessarily know that it was a for sure thing. But at the end of the day, from initial reactions, based upon what I heard, because I was heavily on the TikToks roundabouts that time, and the whole of the Magic the Gathering community on that platform was absolutely up in arms. I could only count maybe on one hand the number of creators who were like, "Who cares? It doesn't matter." But
what are your uncensored feelings on it?
The thing is, I have mixed feelings. The first of them being, I don't feel like I'm allowed to have an opinion, only because I've never played with any of those cards. Nadu included. I had Nadu. Yeah. I pulled him from a pack, and I was like, I'm going to make him into a Commander deck. I never even assembled that deck before he got banned. And so, I don't really feel that loss. At least, for me. I could be wrong. It's very possible I'm wrong. Not an expert here. But, I don't get to feel like I have any say in how the game is played, because I've got no skin in that particular game. I've never had Mana Crypt. I've never had a Jeweled Lotus. Well, that's not true. I pulled one foil Jeweled Lotus once and traded it back into the store immediately to get more packs, because he knows very intimately I'm a go infinite kind of guy when it comes to opening packs. But I pulled the foil one, I took it straight back to the store and got 15 more packs, and it was great. And then I've never had Dockside Extortionist. I didn't even know Dockside Extortionists existed until I started listening to a CEDH podcast. Shout out Play to Win. Y'all are the best. But realistically speaking, I didn't even know that card existed until around about that time. And so for me, it's hard for me to have an opinion just because I want to have an opinion. But anybody who's actually played with those cards is like, well, I feel differently because of X, Y, Z. And I'm kind of like, what can I say? I can't disagree with them because I've never used them. So for me, the bans, like, they're like, oh my gosh, this is such a big deal. And I felt zero of that ripple. Zero. In fact, I probably felt negative of that. In fact, my decks probably got better overnight just because they're like, hey, those cards no longer exist in this meta. And so my decks technically got, like, maybe not largely, but like that much, like a little bit. And it's just like the thing that was frustrating to me, and I'll say this with my whole ass chest, and it's one of the points I want to make. Shame on the community members who reached out to the rules committee and started threatening them. Like, seriously, shame on you guys. Like, you guys went out and because your card game changed its rules, suddenly you want to threaten somebody with physical violence? Really? Like, what are you, 12? Get out of here. Like, there's no reason whatsoever for grown adults to threaten people over a card game that they play for fun. Like, I understand. I play Magic a lot. It's a big part of my life. But what the hell? Like, what? Like, who would do that? Like, it doesn't compute up in here. Like, I can't realistically say they were 100% in the right for doing that. They were not. 0% in the right. Anybody who was part of the people going in and saying, hey, I'm going to hurt people on the rules committee because they took away my Jeweled Lotus, with my whole chest, fuck you. Sorry, but I don't think that that's right, because at the end of the day, we're humans. They were part of the rules committee for a game that we play, and at the end of the day, they're the ones who make the rules. That's why they were the rules committee. And it got to a point where they finally relinquished control to Wizards of the Coast, which was not what the original founder of Commander wanted.
Like, just Magic in general. They wanted the rules and the card, or the makers of the cards, to be separate.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And now Wizards of the Coast has control, so now we have no idea what's going to happen there. But again, at the end of the day, to that particular point, if you were part of that, if you did that and you're watching this, with my whole chest, shame on you. Like, you do not deserve to be a part of a community that's this awesome if you're going to do that. So, like, that's all I'm going to say on the matter. I could say a lot more because I'm very passionately frustrated about that particular point, because this should never have fallen upon their shoulders that hard. It's a game. Get over it.
I'm not even going to bother saying any of you who did that. As far as I'm concerned, you're trash, and I don't talk to trash.
Fair point. Facts, my dude. Anyway, we'll pass beyond that, because again, I'm going to get all wound up and keep talking about it. But like, realistically speaking, like, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but like, it hasn't really made, at least for me, the casual Commander player, it hasn't really affected my gameplay, like, at all.
For me, it was I had used a few of those cards. I got the deck that the Commander deck Dockside was in, because I guess he was a modern card first. Mm-hmm. And I actually forgot about him. And I all of a sudden was going through the deck that I hadn't played in like a few years. And I was like, oh, I got one of these. Guess he's coming out of the deck.
Whoopsies.
But it was mainly, I just forgot that I had him. And he was in a pre-con I had.
Yeah.
And then as far as Mana Crypt, I had gotten that for a deck that I specifically built for when people want to play high power. And so I could actually have fun when crap like that happens. And as far as Jeweldos goes, I never had one of those. Because I never... So I'll shout real quick. I'm very pro proxy for Commander. Yeah. As long as I can see... As long as the card properly shuffles into your deck and everything, and it's clear what it is, I'm very pro proxy. That is the biggest thing. It needs to be very clear what it is. It's not like tokens where your little piece of dice can represent a token. It needs to be pretty abundantly clear.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned. But I'm very pro proxy because I'm sorry, but like spending hundreds of dollars on cardboard is a bit much.
But in fairness, we're in it for the casual. We're not in it for the win. We're in it for the fun.
Even if you want to win games, like I've actually yet to meet a person who plays Commander that isn't pro proxy. Yeah. Because at this point, I feel like proxies are just part of the game. Mm-hmm. And if you're getting the actual card, I feel like a lot of times it's either because you pulled it or because you weren't aware of the proxy situation. Like you were afraid you wouldn't be allowed to proxy at normal game tables when the Commander community is very pro proxy. Especially, ironically, the more hardcore Commander players get, the more pro proxy they get.
Right.
That's what's really funny.
That was a fun juxtaposition.
They are less gatekeepy the more serious the players get, because they actually would rather see everyone playing at their best than have someone's wallet dictate what they can play or what's at that table. Because they didn't come to play casual; they came to play.
they came to play at the highest level. That's pretty great.
So, but I personally am pro that, because I think the original mission statement of the Commander ban list, the way it was ban what's not fun. Mm-hmm. And personally, I think the thing that makes Commander not fun is fast mana. And I already know people are going to say, what about that super expensive Commander that's hard to play? Well, I would say two things to that. First off, that's part of the price of playing a 6 to 10 cost Commander.
Right.
I'm sorry that you want to race that card out by turn, let's say 3 to 6, so you can actually play it depending on how high cost it is. But like that's part of the downside. Mm-hmm. Second, there are plenty of other baubles out there that let you still do it. I do. One of my favorite decks is my Sauron deck, and not for the reasons you think. I'm just a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Mm-hmm. And it is very heavily filled with Lord of the Rings cards or things that are like Ring Wraiths. Mm-hmm. I have, I think, 15 mana rocks in the deck because, yes, I do want to get Sauron out consistently. And I'm in Grixis, so ramping with green really isn't an option.
Right.
But the other reason is I can loot to get other cards. But here's the other big thing. The average mana cost in the deck, despite of not including my rocks or anything, is like 3 mana, 2 to 3 mana. And the reason for that is if Sauron isn't able to get out quick enough, or if I just need a board presence, I have a bunch I have the 9 Ring Wraiths in there. I have a bunch of other stuff that it fits the theme or looked like a Ring Wraith, plus a lot of the Lord of the Rings Orcs cards. Mm-hmm. And again, the purpose of that is I am very aware I'm running a 6-cost Commander. The solution to that is, in my opinion, not to race him out, because the deck should be able to function without him, in my opinion.
Right.
It is to build a presence until he comes out. He's the final boss of the deck. He is not the thing that comes out first. Right. And that's what it ultimately comes down to for that. There are always going to be ways to still get some value, to get value pieces out efficiently. Mm-hmm. Those cards were just a bit too easy. In fact, Mana Crypt is the one that's banned. Mana Vault, I think, should be banned too. I get that it's the face of the format at this point, but I personally wouldn't even mind if Sol Ring had been banned. If you want to make your games more casual and fun, and obviously this requires enthusiastic consent from everyone at the table, but one fun thing you can do actually to make games not feel as like, oh, well, that was kind of a blowout that wasn't fun, is take out fast mana from your decks. And fast mana, from my perspective, I'm sure there's a better definition than what I'm going to give. I'm not even sure if this actually, for all I know, is the technical definition. Fast mana is anything that costs less to come out than what it immediately taps for. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't count something like Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, because Nykthos Shrine to Nyx does not inherently come out and tap for a bajillion mana.
Yeah.
It has the ability to, but it does not immediately come out with that ability. There was setup required. But Mana Vault, or Mana Crypt comes out for 0 mana and immediately taps for 2. That's fast mana to me, because it is always a net positive.
Yeah, it's more of that feeling of getting something for nothing. Like, I can understand why they keep Sol Ring in there, because you still technically have to pay something for it, but for like Jeweled Lotus and for Mana Crypt, it was legitimately something for nothing.
Yes.
So if you happen to just be the luckiest person on the planet and you got both of those in an opening hand and no lands in that hand, you still had access to 5 mana to cast your commander, which feels kind of bonkers to me. Like, that feels like too fast. So, like, 0-drop mana rocks, like, it feels bad. Like, I could almost make an argument for Mox Opal, but it requires Metalcraft, so it requires additional artifacts in order for it to be useful. So for me, it's like, okay, I can let that one go. I can let Sol Ring go because you have to pay something into it to get it on the field, even though it taps for more.
And in a 100-card singleton format, getting Metalcraft isn't a guarantee unless you pretty much built your deck around it.
Exactly.
At that point, like, I'm sorry, you're an artifact deck. Yeah, it was... it's an artifact deck.
Well, it comes with pluses and minuses because, again, if you go and you're playing an artifact deck, because this has happened to me because I play Esper Artifacts, you can go in there and say, yeah, I've got all this, and then someone can Heliod's Intervention and blow you out of the water with absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
You're just like, cool, I have all of these things. All right, cool, I'm going to destroy all of it. Thanks. Have a nice day. And it's just one of those risks that you take as a deck builder where it's like, hey, if I'm going to go and I'm going to build these things this way, if you want to build for Metalcraft, for Mox Opal, or you want to build for something that requires a lot of one thing, like in this instance, artifacts, you take a risk. It's like, hey, if somebody has an artifact wipe and they still have their creatures, I'm kind of SOL. And you know what? You're right. At that point, that's what the bed you made, and now you get to lie in it.
Yeah.
So
there's always going to be upsides and downsides. But yeah, the ban list, as far as I'm concerned, made the game healthier. Mm-hmm. As someone who prefers playing casual games, I played enough win at all cost games when I first started playing Magic. I did the tournament scene in Standard and Modern. Wasn't like the best, but I also wasn't half bad at it. And I did that scene, and it was fun when I did it. But the reason I'm enjoying, as an older person now, Commander is what I'm doing is because I just want to chill and have fun and do new fun things. And the irony is that when you leave broken things in the format, it actually reduces creativity in what you're seeing. Eventually it gets boring. Just like everyone sees a Sol Ring hit the field and go, that is basic as all hell. Like, mm-hmm. It was getting to the point where seeing a Mana Crypt or a Jeweled Lotus hit the table was like, that's boring as all hell. There's no skill or crafting in that. You're just playing what's good. You're just playing a generic good stuff thing that instantly gives you a huge advantage. And you're obviously always going to want to play cards that give you an advantage, but there wasn't really a deck building cost, I think, was what the other thing was. And again, if some of you are like, hey, there's this 6-drop commander I really like playing, it's really hard to play that now that this is out there. First off, there are ways to still play that commander. It probably takes more time in the game, mm-hmm. but whatever advantage that was giving you, it was also giving it to other people who were doing much faster, much more win at all cost plays, such as I don't know if this was a super high powered commander deck, but only card to ever be banned in Vintage, I believe is Loris, the companion card with Lotuses, is really broken because he brings back cheap cards from your graveyard. So no lands in play, bam, him, Jeweled Lotus, bam, him, and then you can just bring the Jeweled Lotus back. And I get it, you can only use it on him if he's your commander. But, think about that. That's essentially a way of saying for the rest of the game, my commander will cost 0, then 0 again, then 1, then 4. By the time the commander's been killed that many times, typically, they're almost unplayable. Mm-hmm. But for that particular thing, it's the complete opposite. Again, one example. But that's just one I come up with the top of my head.
Yeah. But, realistically speaking, the bans, specifically the bans that happened in the most recent banning in 2024 with Dockside, with Mana Crypt, with Jeweled Lotus, obviously, we all know kind of what happened. Everybody kind of saw that and went, this is ridiculous. This is whatever. But again, I am of the opinion that I don't have any opinion because I never had them. And I feel like, and I could be wrong here, I feel like most of the community was in the same boat where it's like, hey, we don't really use those cards.
But you did play against them, so segueing into our other topic.
Oh, yeah,
that's true. Did games feel better once they were gone? Did you feel like that disappearing from people's decks suddenly made games more fun and better?
Yes and no. Because, like, realistically...
And I mean specifically for you, not the person playing it. Obviously, the person playing it might have preferred having it.
Yeah, like, for me, I didn't really notice a difference because, again, the people who didn't want Mana Crypt to be gone haven't taken it out of their decks. They're still like, no, I refuse on principle. I'm not doing this, period, end of statement. And they can do that. But, again, it's not the commander that I'm playing. If somebody's like, hey, I have Mana Crypt in my deck, I'm like, yeah, let's play something else. Generally speaking, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Because, again, I don't necessarily have that advantage. And now that it's a banned card, it's been banned for a reason. So I try to hold up to the rule committee's choices where they say, hey, this was maybe making things a little not fun for everybody. And so let's kind of taper that down a little bit. And realistically, like, the people that I play against who are playing with the ban list as it sits, like, I'm not noticing because, again, generally I don't play against people that have Mana Crypt or have Jeweled Lotus or have...
Well, you also wouldn't know
Dockside.
you also wouldn't know that with Randos now because it's not in there.
Yeah, exactly, and I wouldn't know. Again, I don't. It's not that I would have known before. It's just that I don't have any basis for comparison because generally I didn't go up against those people. There's only one person that I played with specifically who had Mana Crypt and had Jeweled Lotus and put them in his decks and still does not want to take them out. And generally, when both of us play in a game, he tells me, he's like, I'm playing this deck, it has these, get over it. And generally speaking, because I am non-confrontational, I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. Enjoy your fun. And, you know, the game goes the way that it goes. Jeweled Lotus puts his commander out on turn 1 or turn 2. He slaps me in the face for a billion, and I go, cool, next game. Or he has Mana Crypt in his deck, and he uses it to get all of his artifacts out, and he Walking Ballistas me to death. Okay, cool, whatever, next game.
But at the same time, if he was playing with randos, does he still say get over it? Because that would be a very unhealthy thing.
No, it's only when he and
okay.
play just the two of us.
So it's like that's where the ban list needs to be upheld is you're again, enthusiastic consent from anyone at the table if you're doing anything that is not in the rules.
Right.
You don't need to get permission to play the Dragon.
Yeah.
You do need permission to play Griselbrand.
Yeah, you absolutely would need
and again, you never argue with the person who says, no, I'm not okay with that, because it's not on them to explain why they're not okay with you playing a banned card. Yeah. They do not need to explain themselves for why a rule shouldn't be broken. You need to accept that not everyone at the table is okay with that rule being broken.
Yeah.
My biggest thoughts on those cards is, at the end of the day, I'm most interested in the health of the game. And while these stories I've heard less of, because again, the squeakiest wheel gets the grease, I have heard plenty of people who were pro this ban list come out and say that because they were at the newer players, they're very happy with it because they had played against people who kind of blew them out of the water when they were first getting involved into the game. And it almost made them just never play Magic. So those are players who would have been those are people who seem like pretty chill, fun people who would have been out of the community because some people decided that they needed their little power trip. And I get that not everyone is using these cards for a power trip. But that's not the point. The point is it was causing clear, fun problems. Mm-hmm. And even if it was only happening 20% of that time, that's 20% of games that suck now.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be again, it's about fun and the health of the community. And one of the examples I try to give people for why it's important, even though it sucks. And keep in mind, my favorite set is the Mirrodin Phyrexia stuff. So, trust me, I get liking something that is not good for the community. Mm. The original Mirrodin block nearly killed Magic because it got out of hand. And it actually depowered the game to the point of, ironically, almost being in the opposite direction, where the original Kamigawa block is remembered fondly for a few cards, but the block as a whole was a very big... it was not enjoyable for a lot of people, because they went from all this craziness to suddenly, like, cards were, like, super overcosted for getting really low power. It has some of, like, the worst mechanics. Like, it's in the... Like, a lot of the mechanics in that set, and as well as a couple sets even following it, are in like the top 10 lists of like the worst mechanics Magic has ever come up with. Mm-hmm. At least with the way they chose to implement it. And if if the game isn't maintained to a certain point, it will reach a point where every game is just so busted that no one wants to play anymore. Because that's what will happen. You'll get the handful of people who are cool with a game ending on turn 2 or 3. But the majority of people, there's a reason Legacy is not the most popular format. There's a reason Vintage is not the most popular format. Heck, even Modern has reached a point where if you're winning, people are winning turn 1 or 2, and it is deeply dropped in popularity. And that was the way to play. Like when I first started playing, a Tarmogoyf, a non-holo Tarmogoyf was like $400. Like,
and now we make them as tokens.
And now, not only do they make them as tokens, but like I've watched games of current day standard decks beat that deck because the current decks are just that good. And I get power creep's always going to happen. I'm simply pointing out that if you let things get to a certain point, it will kill Magic. We will lose this game in the community, and that does matter. And I do feel like I get that it's a social game, but making 1 out of 4 people feels like shit still means you're losing 25% of the time. If you make 2 people feel like shit, I got news for you guys, that's an F. If you make 3 people feel like shit, well, you are the problem.
You have become the problem.
If you are the one who is constantly upset about something and everyone else isn't, that's where you kind of need to look inward and say, what can I change?
Yeah.
And other than giving examples of other things to like correlate, I'm not sure what else to say. Like, I love stacks. I get that other people don't like it, but I like stacks because it lets me play certain decks. And I don't mean like lock everyone out so no one can play the game stacks. I just mean stacks cards. I like them because they allow me to play certain deck types that I could normally never play. But I also understand that people don't like them because no one likes being told they can't do something. Just like I think the biggest issue with, well, aside from the fact that people treated Magic like a stock market, I think the other biggest issue with people being upset about the bans is being told they can't do something they've been doing. No one likes doing that. And that's why Stacks isn't liked. And I am aware of that, and I'm pretty open when I'm going to play a Stacks deck. And there's a reason I don't play my Stacks decks very often, because I am very aware that I might make the game not fun for other people. And I don't sit there with the attitude of, well, that's not my problem, because I got news for you. I'm 1 of 4 people. It is my problem.
Yeah, I'm 25% of the problem at bare bones minimum.
Yeah.
Like 25% of the onus is on me, and I need to make it fun.
But I also will casually talk to people about why Stacks is good to the game and good for the health of the game. And some people never agree with me because some people just don't like it. And I get it. If you're a combo deck person, nothing I say can fix that about Stacks, because no matter what, I'm ruining your favorite deck type.
Yeah.
But I've also had a lot of people suddenly be okay with soft Stacks. Like, that's why I say it's always about the health of the community, and you can use your voice to kind of change at least your local community on certain things. But at the end of the day, there are certain things that will always hurt the health of the game. They always hurt new players. And there's nothing wrong with removing those things. Sometimes it hurts to have something taken away from you, but it's not about you.
Yeah. And again, that was the main thing, the reason why I was so frustrated with the people who came after the rules committee. They were not doing these bans to pick on people specifically. Like, hey, screw that guy. He likes Dockside. Get that out of here. It wasn't personal. It wasn't anything to do with you as a person or you as a player. They looked at Commander as a whole and said, the meta is getting really fast. What are the things that are making it fast? And they looked at it and they saw that those 3 cards in a large portion of situations were the cause. And you know what? They made a call. And I respect that. And I can only imagine how long it took them, because we remember how long it had been prior to that before there was a ban. Like, there wasn't a ban announcement for years. And I'm sure they sat on this for forever going, hey, this is a big call. Like, if we're doing this, like, we need to do this right. And so they went through and they got all of them. And they made that call and they said it with their chest. They're like, yep, this is the reason why. It's because the meta's not fun anymore.
I honestly think they should have been more vocal. Like, I'm not mad at them or anything. I think anyone who is rude to them or threatened them is just horrible trash. But I do think that but it doesn't mean I can't criticize certain things they did. And I would say they took too long to ban certain things. When Jeweled Lotus appeared as a card in a precon, they got to know before it was ever printed. that's when you put your foot down. You go as the rules committee. I mean, we can't stop you from making it. It's gonna be banned. It's gonna be banned before your set releases. Just a heads up. I guarantee you, that got said, something would have changed.
Yeah, I don't necessarily feel the same way. I think that for Jeweled Lotus, I think that it's worth letting that be in the meta for a short amount of time. So let it be printed. Let it do its thing. Let it be this huge explosive thing being like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I love this card. This card's amazing. And let it be amazing for like a year. Like give it a solid 12 months to be in production. And then say, hey guys, we've noticed that this has gotten out of hand. Like this card is just far too much for this meta and it needs to go. And then you just brush it aside and say, listen, you've had your time in the sun, get out of here. Be gone with it. And if it had happened after a year, I think enough people would have looked at that and gone, you know what, I get it. I think it's fine. But they let Jeweled Lotus not only stay in the game, but they printed it a couple more times.
No, it only had one printing.
No, it's had 2 printings, I think.
Oh, it was in one deck and then in Commander Masters.
Yeah, Commander Masters. Yeah, so
but it's a mythic.
Yeah, but realistically speaking, they let it be printed. They let that continue to happen, and then after a long enough period of time, they finally said, "Hey, this is a bit much." And then the reason why everybody got all mad about it is because it had already skyrocketed in value. It was now the most wanted card in Commander because, you know, it's your Commander cost -3.
But at the same time, there are certain cards you just know are a problem before they ever hit. Everyone saw Nadu and immediately knew he was a problem.
But they let him have his time in the sun is the main
What
thing.
I'm saying is that they shouldn't have. It's a card that just everyone agrees Nadu shouldn't have been printed.
Well, it's been said. I think that Wizards of the Coast said almost either the designers or whatever in no uncertain terms said, "Hey,
this was a stupid mistake.
This was a mistake. We should not have. It should not have come out in Modern Masters." And you know what? They're right because that dude was bonkers. But I think that even then, it's the fact that they gave it like with Nadu. Think of how the reception of Nadu being banned was. Nadu was out for 6 months. No, less than that. Way less than that. Like 3 months, right?
3 months, and he was banned in Modern. 6 months, like for Commander.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 months. So in Commander, he had 4 or 5. Let's just say 6 months. Again, not an expert. Don't know the actual timeline, but like he had 6 months in the sun. He had 6 months for people to go in and to make decks and to break him and to make him gross. And they let that happen. They let it sit. They let it go into tournaments. They got data back, and they were like, you know what? This is dumb. Not because he was too powerful. Well, he was too powerful. Let's not get that wrong. But not because he's too powerful, but because he's powerful, but not deterministic. So you could go and you could combo off forever and ever and ever and ever, and then you have nothing. And it wasn't an issue with. It wasn't an issue with the design of the card because it was still an issue. But the main thing was that people were taking inordinately long turns in timed tournaments. And we're making it not fun for those people. And generally, if people played a Nadu deck, you know that guy. That guy went and he comboed and comboed and comboed and comboed and comboed, and then he stopped his turn. And after 45 minutes, everybody else has been sitting around. They've already walked away from the table twice to go pee. They've gotten a drink from their LGS. They've done a whole bunch of other stuff. They're basically just checked out of the game.
But they're also winning.
Yeah.
While doing that.
Right, they're still winning.
Because taking a long... It clearly wasn't just that it was taking a long time, because they banned cards for that before too.
Right.
It was you don't take over Modern by taking a long time. Because that doesn't necessarily win you games. In fact, a lot of times it ends in a tie, which is bad for your record.
Well, no, not in Modern tournaments, in Commander tournaments.
I mean, I would... Oh, Well, I don't usually take Commander turns into account. Yeah, Commander can take ridiculous turns in general.
Yeah, I'm talking just from a Commander.
If someone's turn has reached the 20-minute mark and they're still taking their turn...
At that point, the game's over. Like, at that point, in my opinion, the game is over. Everyone else that is at the table that is not the current person playing that turn has checked out of that game.
They either the next 3 people need to, or however many people are left, need to just take that player out. Or at that point, I would, as a group, just be like, yeah, we're scooping, because we don't want to wait. Commander takes hours, and someone spending a half hour to 40 minutes on a turn is just... Yeah, dude, you took up 50% of the time of our game time in one turn. Yeah, no. At that point, scoop. It's not worth you winning.
Yeah.
The frustration isn't worth it.
Yeah, no, I get that, but like...
The only reason I disagree with letting stuff have its time in the sun is because there is a point where you just know something is going to be a problem. Jewel Lotus is one of those cards, and I've heard plenty of people even bring it up. And I even went back and looked at videos when it first came out. Mm-hmm. Everyone knew that card was going to be busted.
Yeah.
They didn't immediately... In my opinion, there must have... Like, obviously, Wizards of the Coast and the Rules Committee talked. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, someone was convinced the Rules Committee, either one way or another, not sure how the conversation went, not to ban it. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that anyone with a brain could see that card and go, that is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of card. Dockside Extortionist is one where I was okay with it having its time in the sun. Because, quite frankly, it was most effective when your opponents were playing a ridiculous amount of artifacts and stuff. Mm. That's what made it strong. It's just that Baubles got really such a big part of Commander that Dockside was almost always just a net win. Mm. That was just the meta eventually evolved into a point where Dockside was a problem. Its mere existence wasn't the problem. Mm-hmm. If the meta changed to have a lot less mana rocks, then Dockside would suddenly not be a good card. But Jewel Lotus was just flat out, look at it, you know how good it is. It's If as a new player you could look at that card and go, that's one of the best cards I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Now, think about what experienced players now see. Mm-hmm. And then think about what players who like eat, live and breathe Magic think. And that's when the Rules Committee should have been like, problem, we're not even going to let it exist. Because certain things just don't need time to breathe. Mm-hmm. Because I get letting things breathe so we can see how good or bad they actually are. Because there's also plenty of cards that the community said, that's going to be so good. And it ended up like...
Totally flopped.
It was like the pack before the pack released, it was pre-sailing for like $50. And now you'll find it in a rummage bin.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't good. But there's other cards where it's like, I'm sorry, 0 mana, Commander costs 3 less. There was no world where that wasn't going to be a problem.
Yeah, like, I don't think that you're wrong. I think that either it needed to not be printed at all. Either they need to be like, hey, this is not happening. Period, end of statement, get it out of here. Take it off the drawing board. We're not doing this. Or, when it came out, it needed to have its 6 months in the sun and then be pulled. Because, generally speaking, if you have it for a short amount of time and you know it's broken, you know it's busted, you almost feel that impending doom. You almost feel you're like, this is going to get banned.
Well, only the players who really chase cards have it now.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, realistically speaking, like, it's not, it's not abnormal for somebody to feel that way. In regards to it's like, hey, this sucks that I lost it, but like if they have the 6 months in the sun to be able to kind of do what it does and say, hey, this is a great card. This card did what it wants to, and then it gets banned. Then it's like, okay, fine, whatever. I had my time with it. I had my fun. Let's move on. The fact that we had Jewel Lotus in there for years and years and years. The fact that it's stuck around that long, people got lulled into a false sense of security. Like, this thing's never going anywhere. It's a staple in Commander. And I think that's where all the bad feels came from. Because everybody feels like it's a staple, when in truth, it just...
Because they might have waited a year or two before getting one because they were afraid it was going to go away.
Exactly.
And then
people were waiting, and then they reprinted it, and then people started jacking up the price on it, and it was $70, $80, $90 for them. And then it was gone. But... On a secondary note, I think I can kind of see where you're coming from, where this shouldn't have happened at all, because if they knew it was going to get banned, like the second that they saw it come into the meta, they probably had a discussion like, this may need to be banned at some point in the future. And it may be the reason why it waited so long, because it is a card that was printed exclusively for Commander. It was a card that was printed for the Commander format, and really can only exist in Commander.
And so from there, they might have looked back. They were afraid of what the perception would be if they banned it. Because
if you print a card for a specific format and then take it out of that format, what good is that card?
Oh, no, it's quite literally useless everywhere. So I get the argument that this card now has no home anywhere.
Yeah.
To which my response as a player is, good, it never should have existed to begin with. So now, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't.
It's just a collector's piece now at
Yeah.
this point. Like, yeah, hey, I got a Jewel Lotus while it was still in.
I got to use it for 3 years.
Yeah, I got to use it for a few years, and it was great. It was good times. And again, the stuff. If you look up the price right now, I'll see if I can find the price and put it up on here or whatever at time of recording. But like, realistically, like, they're still valuable. They still cost us. They still haven't lost a ton of their value. They lost a little bit of their value. So for people who were holding on to those cards in big companies like TCG Player, Card Kingdom,
I think the real issue is they're having problems unloading.
yeah, I say now there's not a market for them. Like, there are some people who are still buying them up all over this, and they had huge stocks of them, and they suddenly lost like 40% of their value. It seemed like overnight, and that sucks for them. But also, it's not the stock market; it's a trading card game.
And as a
Yeah,
company,
no,
as if you're running a business and you chose to take that risk, I'm sorry, but like
That's what you live.
that's no different than if you spent a bunch of money on a game that suddenly dried up overnight, like any other game.
Or you bought a bunch of stocks from a company that you thought was going to do great, and then they suddenly flop. It's a risk. It's all risk and reward. You mitigate risk where you can, and you do what you have to survive. But at the end of the day, it's not the fault. It's not the card's fault. It was the choice, the decision making skills. It's part of the whole process of buying and selling cards. If you're doing that, if you're buying and selling trading cards, sports cards, trading card games, anything like that, at certain points there's going to be ebbs and flows, and you just got to roll with it. And even now, they're still worth a decent amount of money.
Mana Crypt is still worth a decent amount of money. It's just not worth nearly as much.
Yeah.
Now, I have seen people make posts, and I'm going to take them at their word that they did do this, because I don't know why you brag about it, but like, people have said, I have like 180 plus decks, and they all had Mana Crypt. I'm so pissed at how much money I've lost, to which I would respond, first off, you did get you got years worth of the fun you were trying to get out of them. Mm-hmm. But second, I'm sorry, but dude, I think for one person that posted it, they had spent like $12,000 on Mana Crypts when you did the math. And it was just like, dude, at a certain point,
proxies exist, my guy.
Proxies exist, first off. Second, dude, it's a card game.
Relax.
You need to calm down. The banning is not the problem in your situation.
Your decision-making skills are the ones that are being called into question.
That was definitely you made a silly choice, but you're mad because like you don't really feel like you have an out, which I would be like, I mean, yeah, but like, why?
Yeah.
Because the claim of that person was that every commander deck they owned had it. And it's like, dude, you have 180 commander decks?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Dude,
of commander decks,
you have that many commander decks, and you have a Mana Crypt for every one of them. Like, dude, your life is good.
You're
Please,
doing quite well.
I don't think I could afford to do that. And if I put all my extra time and money into it, I don't think I could do that. So, like, dude, sorry, but this was always like with how many cards you own, this was going to happen no matter what with something.
Yeah. If it's not Mana Crypt, it's something else, right? But and I guess like my big thing with the whole 2024 bans is just that for the average commander person, the average commander player who has just been playing games with the cards that they have and buying the singles that they want and not necessarily spending on singles more than, let's say, $40 in value, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, in a perfect world where everybody's cool with proxies and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to buy proxies of the cards that I want, do whatever, and not invest a crap load of money into these cards. For the most part, we saw those bans and went, oh, shoot. Well, that sucks. Yeah. And then they moved on with our lives. Then again, the squeakiest wheels get the grease. So the loudest commander players, they bark and bark and bark as much as they want to. And they want to be heard, and they're the ones who are going to post up on the internet crying, burning their Mana Crypts, burning their Jeweled Lotuses. I saw those videos. You guys are dumb. I hope those were proxies, but you guys are dumb. But
even nice proxies are $4.
Yeah, well, still, like a $4 card, I could be like, yeah, cool, burn it. Who cares? A $60 card, one that's in a real one, it's just kind of like, hey man, hold on to that. Maybe don't burn it right now. But again, it's all perception on social media. No one ever does anything for real because, like, you know, you don't want to lose out on anything. But at the end of the day, like those bans, For the most part, I'd say for 80%, and again, this is just my number, not an expert, I feel like 80% of the meta was just kind of like, okay, that's cool. I'll make sure to make those edits when I get home from work today. And they go home from work and make those edits, and it's done. And you don't have to worry about it. And the 20% that is up on the internet crying, burning their freaking Jeweled Lotus on camera just to post it up on TikTok for clout, like, y'all aren't the reason these were banned. The reason why they were banned is for the 80% of us who don't care.
Well, unless you were one of the people who were causing problems, then yes, it was kind of banned.
Yeah, I guess it was. That's fair. That's a fair assessment. But like, it's at the end of the day, I feel like for the most part, it didn't affect all of us, and I just want to go on the record and say, like, if you enjoy those cards, if you enjoyed Mana Crypt and you enjoyed Jeweled Lotus and you enjoyed Dockside Extortionist and you played with them for a long time and you are just feeling these bands in your heart of hearts, I feel for you. I'm sorry, but I also don't have any frame of reference because I've never owned any of those cards. I never even proxied any of those cards. I don't have them, and I'm just kind of like, okay, it doesn't hurt my feelings as bad. So I'm not saying that you're not going to get sympathy, that you don't deserve sympathy. I'm sure that there are other people who you can commiserate with that feel the same way, but just know you're not going to get it from this guy, because this guy has never played them before, and I don't feel like they were a bad thing.
The only thing I would want to say towards the end of this is that, because I've talked to a lot of people, and I've heard some people very emphatically be upset at least about a couple of the bans. And I've even heard a few of them go back and forth. But something I've noticed is that a lot more people were very either okay with it or were very happy about the bans. And what's funny is they would always name this one person they would play with. And this wasn't like just my group. This is people I talked to at LGSs and stuff. But they never really talked to that person about it because that person is very upset and a mixture of defensive and stuff. So if you're one of the people that's very upset about it, and you notice that 3 people are like very either okay with it or they don't really have anything to say when you bring it up, I feel like you should use that as a point of inflection where it's like there's going to be stuff you're okay with, but you could always be in the minority. And that's fine. Again, I'm obviously very pro make the game healthier, but there's mechanics I love that I don't use as much because I am very aware that they're mean or don't help with the health.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. And that can go both, and that can go towards this too. And just respect their opinion, because I don't disrespect anyone's opinion that these are good, because it's an opinion, and I'm even willing to hear them out. And if the community as a whole is much more upset and had been very vocal about these bans, even the people who weren't playing them, I feel like I would have a different opinion. I probably wouldn't play this game as much, to be honest, because obviously that's not the kind of game I want. But clearly that is the kind of game that a lot of other people want. And that is a thing that you should learn as a player, because it is a social game. And learning what is and isn't looked down or up upon can help you have more fun. And it will also, and that's ultimately what I want this podcast to help people with, is have fun and help the community be better. That's why one of the things I want is for more people to play just very casual decks.
Right.
Stop, and part of that could be something like stop playing the newest thing that came out. I get it. It's like Aether Drift just came out, or is about to come out.
It came out last night, I think, on the pre-release.
Was it? Oh, okay, so it was last night?
Yeah, it was last night.
Okay, so
at time of recording, now you know when
we okay. We just dated ourselves. So, but I see a bunch of people posting like, this Aether Drift, this, and it's just like, especially with how many sets are coming out in rapid succession, it feels like. I think people should like kind of step back and leave that stuff alone a little bit and go look at some of the older fun stuff you used to have fun with. If you really enjoyed Theros, see what you can do there.
Yeah, give it a little love.
You'd be amazed how much more fun you could have in Commander if you're not just constantly trying to chase the new fun thing. And don't get me wrong, I bought some of the new fun things. When the Modern Masters came out, I was super excited for the Goyf deck.
Yeah.
Because the idea of making tokens of something that once upon a time was like
$300, $400.
Something that I couldn't realistically afford without crippling myself financially makes me giggle inside.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't really win with the deck, but I have so much fun just being like, I'm making goifs.
Hooray!
like it just makes me so happy, and I can't explain why other than it makes me happy. And so, like, look at stuff like that. Like, you're allowed to have nostalgia about the game and try to take advantage of that. And I think that's why I don't like that stuff, is because stuff like Jewel Lotus and Mana Crypt kind of keep people from playing that other stuff, because no one wants to play a game where they don't actually get to play.
And that's fair. But I'd say that probably about covers it all, right? Like, I don't think... The only thing I could think of that I wanted to talk about a little bit more is, do you know of cards on the list that you would want to be unbanned? Not necessarily the ones from 2024, but the ones that have been banned for a while that maybe have lost a little bit of their power because of power creep? Because, like, I'll say it with everything else. Like, I think Coalition Victory could absolutely be brought back into the game, because it's a silly win condition
and really hard to get off, and it is, I think it's counterable, right?
It is. You can counter it. So it's like, again, there are some cards on the ban list that probably need to come off the ban list. Are there any in particular that you can think of, or do you not really have?
So I would probably say want to come off the ban list is an interesting way of putting it.
Or things that you would like to see come off the ban list in the future.
I don't know, because I do like that the ban list works in the way that unless it will improve the health of the game, they leave it banned. They don't like using the excuse of, well, all this other stuff is broken, so it's okay that we release it into the wild now. Because that way of thinking actually just makes the game more broken, because you've increased the amount of broken stuff. But I also get something like Coalition Victory, really, it wouldn't hurt to be unbanned, especially with how many, like, I win the game. Because the main reason Coalition Victory got banned back in the day was because it was considered an unfun way to win.
Yeah.
And Commander was a lot more chill, was a lot more tame back then. Now, like you said, I think in the previous episode you talked about Walking Ballista.
Your Walking Ballista, like Underworld Breach decks, Adnos decks, what's it called?
All the crazy crap you can do.
Thassa's Oracle.
Yeah.
Thassa's Oracle being one of the biggest CEDH combo pieces of all time.
I thought that, or is that Whole Breacher that got banned?
Whole Breacher got banned as well. Yeah. Whole Breacher is also banned, but Thassa's Oracle is currently not banned.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually one of the biggest combo pieces that exists in the meta right now. So, like, stuff like that exists, and I feel like because that stuff exists, in a world where those exist, Coalition Victory is just kind of like the redheaded stepchild that sits in the corner. It's like, yeah, I do the same thing, but it's a lot harder, and I don't feel like it would be a huge impact to the game to see it. If anything, I may actually be wrong there, because I think if Coalition Victory came back, a lot of people who used to play Coalition Victory would jump up, click their heels, and put those decks back together. It's just to say, like, hey, I have a Coalition Victory deck.
I think the only reason it doesn't matter to me one way or the other for that one is it's not that I don't want it to be unbanned, it's that I don't care if it is or isn't unbanned because of the state the game is at.
Right.
And that just makes me go, I think if we unbanned it, so many people would not notice that it would actually be funny.
Yeah.
It'd be funnier how many people don't notice versus people that go, oh my god.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's where I'm like, if it's that big of, if it's so small that no one would even notice, then is it even necessary?
That's fair. Well, I think that about covers it for me. We have beaten this dead horse sufficiently. But anyway, thanks so much for watching and listening. If you guys want to hear more from us, we're going to be putting out a bunch more content very soon. Please feel free to go on the tubes of you and like and subscribe. Go and find where this podcast is, where you listen to podcasts. Go ahead and subscribe, do some subscribbling for us. We would very much appreciate it. But until then, we will catch you guys on the next one.
Y'all have a great day, and just remember, whenever you're kissing your wife, you're also kissing an ex-girlfriend.
You have a good day. Good shit. We're going to have to write a bunch of those down. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm Ryan.
I'm Ben.
And we are on our show where, I can't say words. I'm going to try that again because that fucking sucked so hard. God, these bloopers are going to be great. Anyway.